On this week's episode, just how much glass will be broken this weekend at the box office? Just how cool on just how cool can smart products really be? And why is it not a and why is it not good to be Randy Pitchford right about now? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back for another edition of the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our programs. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. He is the trailer hunter for Humanica Media. You gotta check out everything that's going on today at humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. Checking out all that good stuff that came out this week for trailers, my friend.
It was a very busy week for trailers. Yes, there's a lot of things got dropped. Not really a lot of warning about a lot of this stuff. You just kind of woke up and boom, there it was.
Pretty much that was the case, and we're going to track down everything for you that we saw this week as far as movie trailers for movies upcoming that are really getting us excited. We're going to be talking about that coming up a little bit later in the program. Plus, also as well, Josh and I want to talk a little bit more about something we touched on a previous episode with the saga between Bungie leaving Activision, and then also we want to touch on some I guess you can call a little bit of a humorous thing going on with Randy Pitchford, who is, well, who's best known as far as being the CEO of Gearbox Entertainment. But unfortunately, it's not gaming that what we're talking about when it comes to Randy Pitchford right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the back end of the episode. Plus, we have great interviews from CES that I conducted with 161 great makers of a lot of great makers of a lot of great smart products out there, like smart wallets, smart backpacks, and smart watches with all your favorite pop culture characters on it. We're going to have an interview there live from CES that we conducted coming up here in a bit. Plus, also as well, we've been on a retro kick lately, and we just want to emphasize how much in love we are with the fact that retro is now going strong in pop culture. In fact, this week I was at a Walmart and they devoted virtually an entire row to a lot of great retro products. And on top of that, in a CES interview that I also conducted there, I'm going to talk to the great. I'm going to be talking to the great people at Inex. They have a lot of great stuff coming out as well, coming up in the near future. Plus, they also talk about some of their very hot sellers as well in the retro gaming marketplace. But first, my friend, we've got a great movie finally coming out this weekend to the box office out there. A big time AAA franchise movie that, you know what, I didn't think was going to be a trilogy when it started out with way back 18 years ago. But Glass is hitting theaters this weekend to complete that M. Night Shyamalan trilogy. And it looks like from all instances, at least it's going to collect about 40, $50 million this weekend at the box office domestically. Good start for the year right here, being it the first high profile movie. The reviews are mixed. I'm going to be checking out hopefully this weekend. What are you expecting when it comes to Glass hitting theaters this weekend?
I'm not expecting a lot from it. I know there's a lot of hype for it, and personally, I'm not expecting a lot. I know a lot of people have a lot kind of riding on it. People who've seen Unbreakable way back when, and then Split, and big fans of that movie out there. What are you about to say?
Well, I wanted to ask you, do you think the hype is because of that trilogy and this is going to be the completion of it? Or do you think it's a lot of hype because this is the first high profile movie coming out in 2019?
I honestly I don't think it has much to do with either of those things. I think it's more the fact that I think it's Split is the movie that really got people interested in the other movies, because I guarantee you if Netflix or Vudu or whatever movie services out there, if you were to look, their viewings of Unbreakable and well, just Unbreakable, I guess, probably have skyrocketed since the announcement of Glass. So I remember watching Unbreakable. I need to go back and watch it because it was an interesting movie. But and I think another big factor is that this if this is successful, it could very well create a third competing superhero universe.
Well, that's very interesting synopsis right there, my friend. I like that analysis. Whether or not it does come to fruition, even if it's a big hit, I don't know about that because it sounds like Shyamalan is done with this trilogy once and for all. And you got to admit, Bruce Willis can't do much more at his age as far as from that end. And Samuel Jackson has reached 70. I saw that the other day when his birthday hit, and I just couldn't believe it, that he's turned 70 already. So how much more those two have left in the tank? They'll have to maybe offshoot it from there, maybe with James McAvoy's character or whatever happens to him in the movie, because again, we have not seen it as of yet. I plan to, and hopefully I can give you a review as early as this Monday's Pop Culture Cosmos. And I'll tell you what, it's still a great sign that there are other things out there that people are looking forward to. And you're right, Split was a big time surprise hit when it came out just 2 years ago. James McAvoy's performance with all the different personalities really clicked with audiences. And I hear, even though the reviews are mixed, is that his performance again steals the show one more time in Glass.
Yeah, I mean the trailers look really cool. Just the scenes where he's running across the lawn, kind of on all fours, reminds me of Beast from X-Men. Remember those scenes that show him running down the beach and all that. So
Imagine the irony in
I
that
know,
one.
right? James McAvoy. Well, okay, so and I don't necessarily think that Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson are gonna reprise their roles if they make future entries because this is kind of the end of their story. It feels like so. But who knows? They could introduce other elements into that world. They could have their standalone films and then do another Glass type thing. The possibilities are endless because that world feels more grounded. They're not superheroes. They're just people with abilities, right? So they're not like they don't wear costumes. They don't have gimmicks or shticks. It's all just human. It's a very human element of a powered genre, I guess.
Bruce Willis's gimmick is a raincoat. That was his idea of putting on a cape and or cowl or any type of tights, was just putting on a raincoat like he did in the first film. He does, I believe, again from what I've seen in the trailers, one more time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how many, like Dark Horse or Image Comics, we see regular heroes, just vigilante type heroes, just they throw their hoods on, they have their headphones, right, and they just kind of walk around and do their thing. They don't need jet boosters or capes or anything really. They're just normal people with not normal abilities.
Now, I want to ask you this: when it comes to M. Night Shyamalan movies, there's always a twist at the end. It's seemingly, anyways, that he goes out of his way to try and make a twist in the movies to try and just, give audiences that left turn. He did it in A Sixth Sense that really worked well. Obviously, he did the same thing in Unbreakable when at the very end, spoilers, well, I mean, it's not much of a spoiler now. I mean, it's obviously the emphasis that we have for Glass coming out, but Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mr. Glass, was indeed a very bad supervillain, and it comes to the point where in each Shyamalan movie, besides a cameo that he makes in almost every one of them, is that he tries to do something that's going to give you a left turn than what you're expecting. Just going into that with that notion, what do you think as far as a movie that seems straightforward as far as a closure for the trilogy? What do you think that can actually happen as far as a maybe a left turn for some kind of surprise value that Shyamalan could do could add that it could actually enhance the movie other than people just coming in to be satisfied to see a closure of this great Shyamalan trilogy?
Yeah, that's a good point because I almost hope that he doesn't do it because those are really those endings of his. They're really hit and miss. It's like I remember watching The Village and I just hated the fact that I had spent $11 to go see that movie afterwards. Right? With Glass.
Exactly, and it leads to his films being a hit or miss proposition.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because they would be good movies if he didn't try to be smart, I guess, at the end of them. And with Glass, I'm almost seeing this whole thing where it's like, maybe they are actually crazy. Maybe that whole thing in the mental hospital is just like a them thinking that they're fighting each other, but the movie's going to end with them three still sitting in those chairs talking to what's her name's character from American Horror Story. Shoot, you know who I'm talking about? Okay, all right. Well, so that's all good. But yeah, I hope they don't do that because that would drive me absolutely nuts. And I guarantee you, whatever momentum Split had picked up for that, that series of films, it would just be dead.
Sarah Paulson.
That's her.
That's right. Sarah Paulson, who does, she's had actually a pretty good year the past 365 days. Ocean's 8 did well. She's in Bird Box, and so she's actually had a good role as far as American Horror Story. Obviously, her work there speaks for itself. And now she's in the middle of Glass right here, being I guess, the psychiatrist or doctor in charge of supervising these three and trying to get them off of their thinking that, hey, they're comic book heroes and villains, and having them try to believe that otherwise, when there could be something to what they're all talking about in the first place. And obviously, if you see the trailers, they've been pretty good in showing that impending battle, and that, yes, they've been hard to believe by everyone else that they actually have super abilities, but when push comes to shove, maybe they actually do. So that part of it, by Shyamalan building that tension, building that rise in animosity, and it didn't seem like at first that there was animosity between the three, even after all this time. um, Originally there was, obviously, at the end with of Unbreakable, with Bruce Willis's character and Samuel L. Jackson's character, but it seems like in since they were all in the sanitarium and they were all there, that they were stuck in limbo with each other, and they just had to deal with it. But it looks like it's been taking a turn for the worst, as Mr. Glass has actually gone ahead and manipulated things from behind the scenes and pulled those strings to see what he could get out of James McAvoy's character, which could be a very interesting partnership. Although I'm interested to see how long that partnership lasts in the movie itself. Is it something that we've already seen most of in the trailers, or do you think it'll expand much beyond that and make it a good part and actually a cornerstone of the movie itself?
I think I'm predicting Bruce Willis's character is going to be like Wolverine. He doesn't want to be a hero, but he feels it's his moral responsibility to do something because he can. Like, kind of, how Wolverine in the comic books, anytime he like sees something going on, like Spider-Man's always swinging after the taxi cab. Iron Man's always flying through the air trying to stop airplanes or what from falling or whatever. But Wolverine, it always shows him anytime there's a crime going on, he's got a cigar in his mouth and you hear him like let out some expletive, and then he ultimately ends up jumping in there because he feels a moral obligation to do so. I feel like that's going to be Bruce Willis's character.
The reluctant hero, so to speak, correct?
Right. And I feel like that's what makes a true hero, though, not someone who feels a moral obligation, whereas not like Batman, who does it to soothe his guilt.
Well, this does look like it's setting up very nicely, although, like I said, the critics have been mixed in its reception and actually does not have the greatest Rotten Tomato score in the world. But be that as it may, it could be one of those movies that still hits despite any negative connotations that have been sent out by critics or word of mouth, and that at least it will have a very nice run in its first weekend domestically here at the box office. If it's anything near to what Split does, it looks like it's been a winning situation, because for M. Night Shyamalan, his career movie-wise has been very up and down so far. Tell me your thoughts on some of the M. Night Shyamalan movies in the past that you've seen or that you've experienced, that like I said, the left turns, the diversions are always there somewhere in the end. But when it comes to it, like I said, it's been hit or miss. But tell me your experience when you're watching M. Night Shyamalan movies.
It's I don't know, man. It like like I said, it's hit or miss. Because those have really been the things that have made or broken the movies. Like Sixth Sense, I love that movie, but that came out at a time when people wanted that kind of thing, right? That was a fad in filmmaking, was the twist at the end. What's the twist? And he did a great job with The Sixth Sense and the fact that, spoiler alert, Bruce Willis was actually dead. And then The Village, no, Signs, I think was the next one. Signs came out,
Signs with Mel Gibson, I believe, and Joaquin
and
Phoenix.
that one didn't actually have a twist to it. Like that was just a pure horror movie, and I loved it. It was so good. And then The Village was the one that really made me not want to watch any more of his movies because it had such a good setup. Oh my gosh, it was so great. And then, you get to that part where you find out that the monsters were fake. And one, it makes you go like, "Oh man, Amish people are disgusting." And then also makes you go, "Oh man, M. Night Shyamalan is disgusting." And it just turns you off of that whole experience. Lady in the Water was meh. And then I think the last movie that he made that I actually enjoyed was The Visit. Did you see that one?
That I did not, but have you seen Avatar or
Yes.
Earth? After Earth was really a bummer. Avatar, I know that was something to behold one way or another, however you want to slice that one. The Happening, that I think to me was my biggest disappointment when watching some of his movies because I thought that one was really going to click with audiences, but when I watched it, man, it was just a bummer from beginning to end.
Yeah, that one was interesting.
Although Bird Box kind of recreated that formula.
They did. I don't think the world was ready for a movie like Happening. I think much like, how we discussed Treasure Planet and Atlantis being ahead of their time, I think Happening was kind of in a mindset thinking above the society station at that point in time.
Be nice to
Um,
your trees.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm sure the environmentalists like it, but I mean, it was in the delivery, really, though. Like how be nice to the trees, and then in the background, there's a guy like putting his head into a lawnmower. Like it was handled extremely gruesome, I guess, and I don't think that was the what people wanted out of that movie. But like I said, my all-time favorite thing that he's done up to date is The Visit because that is absolutely terrifying. You find out that you're going to visit your grandparents. Your parents send you up there, visit the grandparents, and then you find out that those aren't your grandparents. Those are just a couple that escaped from a mental hospital, and you find this out through a Skype call. Crazy. I would, I don't know. I would never trust humanity ever again.
Watch out for that oven. Gonna put you right in it, right? Grandma's gonna put you right in
Oh
it,
my
cook you for
gosh.
dinner.
There's this there's a part in there where the grandpa like I don't even want to talk about it. He like smears feces on this kid's face, and the whole movie theater was just I've never seen a movie theater react simultaneously like that. So he did a good job with that. Like that was a lot of really shocking things.
Boy, there's so many things I can say, but thank goodness our show is not an NSFW show.
Not allowed to talk about poop on the radio.
Not in the fashion I would probably say would be best fitting for that type of a comment that you just made in regards to the visit, but I digress. But the movie is but the movie is Glass. It is coming this weekend to theaters. Like I said, it's projected over the 4-day weekend to do anywhere from about 50 to 60 million dollars. I think would be a pretty good success for the movie. If it does anything more than that, hey, it tells me that despite the negative reviews, people just want to go ahead and see an event movie and get things started. And that's my last question to you as far as what we're talking about when it comes to Glass. Do you think it's going to do? Do you think the movie is going to do well overall because of the fact that it is the first major high profile movie of the year, and people are just so excited to see films this year? Because as we relayed in one of our previous episodes about how many good movies are coming along this year, and how you're going to be writing an upcoming article on the movies that we're looking forward to, there is just a tremendous amount of movies coming so far, coming this year in 2019, and this is the first high profile movie of them. Do you think a lot of it will be based off of a lot of people being excited going to see this movie just because of the fact that this year is going to be such an important year for the movie industry?
I really want to believe that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Movie prices have skyrocketed, and I think starting I don't know, whenever the legitimate, whatever Disney or Marvel film comes out, I honestly think people are going to be super picky in the types of movies that they go see. Glass, I hope it does well. It has very interesting premise, and whether or not it carries over the audience from Split is to be determined. But I don't see this as a movie that people are going to rush out to go see just for the sake of seeing a movie.
And well, one thing also as well, remember this time last year, you had discounts where people were watching movies literally nonstop, round the clock for what, 9.99, and it just seemed like that was such a great deal going on, and people were loving that. And unfortunately, that industry kind of went by the wayside, or took a, like a M. Night Shyamalan movie, took a dramatic left turn. I mean, there's still some semblance of it, but unfortunately, it was not a business plan or a business model that could keep up with the demand. And so I see, as far as the volume maybe not being there as much as it was last year or the year prior in the beginning, but with so many great movies coming out, like I said before, I think this will be the biggest year ever for the movie industry, and it all starts this weekend with Glass. What are your thoughts out there on the movie Glass? Are you excited to go see it? Have you seen it already? Share us your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, coming up next, we've got our friends at TM61. We got our friends at 161 talking about a lot of the great smart products that they have coming out, like their smart backpacks, smart wallets, and most importantly, smart trackers, and most importantly, their smart watches. One of them is really catching an eye, and that's the new Fallout smartwatch, which we go into great detail on as I interview 161 at CES. This is the PCC Multiverse. All right, and we're back with the PCC Multiverse. Once again, it's Gerald coming right back at you here. If you want to check out any of our shows that we've got coming out, in fact, we just put out on our Pop Culture Cosmos channel a 3-hour special of all the great interviews that we did over the course of the past month or so on the top 5 in pop culture in 2018. If you want to check that out, check it out today on one of our great podcast networks like Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and over 30 different podcast outlets. And if you need to know where we're being played at, all around the world, because we're on over 15 different radio stations. Check out our listings today, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. My friend, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media. So share the goods, my friend. What is going on with your great experience known as Humanica Media?
Topicocalypse, new episode just went up last week. There should be another one going up on Monday, but yeah, we're kind of slow right now, so hopefully things will pick up later in the year. But yeah, go check out Topicocalypse on Podbean, iTunes, and all the usual places.
That's right. That's Topicocalypse, also available every Tuesday on the Podcast Radio Network. My friend, got a lot of trailers that we were blessed with this week. So I want to go ahead and share. I wanted to spread some time out there with a lot of great trailers and a lot of great footage that we were sent with this week. So I picked out 3 trailers to talk about and 1 gameplay trailer. Okay. So I want to first start off with Spider-Man Far From Home. Oh my gosh, this one's going to be a doozy, my friend. So let's knock this out first and foremost. Did you get a chance to see Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, and what were your initial thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home?
I think it looks fun. I liked it. It was a step away from, I guess, the traditional Spider-Man films, because I guess in the fact that it's in another country, and I honestly love that Nick Fury's involved, because it kind of reminds me of I've said this before. I'm a huge fan of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books. I absolutely love them. I have just about every issue that ever came out of that comic book, because it's so great. But in the comic book, Spider-Man, he's a kid like he is in the MCU, and he often causes more trouble than he does good, good while trying to protect the city. And I like that in this one's Nick Fury's in it because it's just like in the Ultimate comic books. Nick Fury is trying to be a mentor to Peter Parker, and I'm really want to see that dynamic. I was looking at on Polygon, and they did a little piece trying to break down like the Easter eggs and stuff, and they're sitting there trying to analyze Happy Hogan's presence, trying to analyze whether or not Tony Stark's still alive and blah 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 blah. But yeah, no, it looks good, and I like how Mysterio is Mysterio. In this trailer, it shows him. Everyone's asking why he's fighting that thing, like why he's trying to look like the hero. Well, it's because that's Mysterio. That's what he does. He creates things and then he fights them so he looks cool. And I want to see like how he interacts with Spider-Man at first. Obviously, they're going to fight each other, but at first, is Spider-Man going to try to team up or how that's going to work out? But I'm excited about it. You had some thoughts. You're talking to me about something before the show. Amy Pascal. What are you thinking? What's going on there?
Well, I just don't like the timing of Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. We know it's coming out. The thing is the fact that the thing is the fact that before the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer came out, it was indicated by Sony movie head Amy Pascal that the movie itself takes place, or at least starts off with, the in the beginning, it starts off just minutes after the events of Avengers Endgame, which, yes, you can see he's alive, he's well, and he's doing all of his Spider-Man type of things, which we all knew he was coming back for. The previous movie obviously made a lot of money. Obviously, Spider-Man's a property that's very vaunted and very beloved by Sony, that they will not give it up to Marvel. So yes, we knew he was going to come back, but I've talked to you about this before. I just like that sense of wonder, that sense of surprise. Yes, my mind tells me that Black Panther is going to be revived. My mind tells me that Spider-Man's going to be revived. You don't make the kind of money that those two movies generate and them not coming back. But I'm kind of old school in the fact that I just don't want that much spoiled for me before I go ahead and watch one of the premier movie events of the year. Is that too much to ask?
Are you saying because I kind of feel the same. Like we have three trailers for movies that have not come out yet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And yes, Spider-Man's coming back, but it's they run the risk. It's the same thing they did with the End War trailer, right? They showed us what happens to Ant-Man. Obviously, he doesn't get stuck in the
Exactly, and I
quantum.
didn't
Yeah.
want that. I didn't want to see that either. Didn't have to show that.
Yeah, I hear you, man. They try to build up hype, but again, the hype that they build has a lot of marketing things involved in it too. They want you to go see this movie. They want to make sure they show you all the things that they're gonna be trying to sell you on as this movie comes out. So they have like action figures and all that, and T-shirts and comic books and stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes behind it, and they suck at spoiling things, but I think there's marketing purposes behind it.
And Mysterio, with Jake Gyllenhaal taking up the role of Mysterio, fighting quote unquote these elementals that it looks like, from all appearances and pretty much projections that people have based off the comic book character that he has created. Your thoughts on Mysterio being that high level bad guy that will actually be someone that can actually, in the movies, be someone that actually is threatening enough to go ahead and fend off Spider-Man to any level. We obviously know Spider-Man's going to end up saving the day and all that, but to be at that level where it, for at least a moment, we can suspend our belief and think that Spider-Man could be in actual trouble.
So here's my thing. I'd never really liked Mysterio that much. He was menacing, like in the cartoons, but he's always kind of been a coward. Once he gets kind of found out, he's always because that's what he is. Like he's a special effects person. Like that's his backstory. And anytime he gets found out or like his device, his gadgets break, he just becomes a scared dude. So he's not really all that all that menacing. So I'm hoping that they turn him into more than that. But uh, who knows at this point? He's not the villain I would have picked for this movie. But again, I guess the whole Goblin thing, people are still tired of that, and Carnage is in the Sony wheelhouse still. Some we don't, all of Spider-Man's greatest villains are, it seems, are wrapped up in Amy Pascal's battle to be like Marvel, and she has all these characters that uh, the MCU can't use, and that's kind of irksome.
Well, according to what I was researching, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of between 900 and 1,000 different characters in the Spider-Man universe that Sony has direct control of, which to me is quite baffling how Marvel could have made that deal. But then again, in the Incredible Hulk, he can't even appear in his own movie at this point in time by himself under the Disney label.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous too. This whole thing, Sony, I love what they did. The hype behind Into the Spider Verse, loved it. Haven't seen the movie yet, but I love how everyone loves the movie so much, and I'm excited to watch it one day. But it seems weird because they are so desperate to create their own MCU, and that's why those characters will never go back to Marvel, because according to their contracts, they need to make a movie every, I want to say 2 or 3 years, and they'll just keep putting crap out there, right? Like, remember with Amazing Spider-Man, that the Andrew Garfield, the third one, was in limbo for so long. They're like, let's put out a movie about Aunt May, and that was actually something that was circling the production pipeline for a long time. And that is not something anybody wants to see. So there's so much. They have such a history of desperation that it drives me nuts. And with a stockpile of 9,000 characters, it's just, the possibilities frighten me.
900, 900.
900, yeah, it's just, that's horrifying. If they're gonna do something, and plus it's exhausting, right? Because Spider-Man is in the MCU, and if they're gonna do something, they need to combine their efforts. Stop, nitpicking at each other. It drives me nuts.
But the thing is, what gets me on top of all of what you're saying is that the success of Venom might be fool's gold, because now they're going to go ahead and you hear the stories about a Silk movie and all these other types of movies that branch off from the Spider Verse there, and pardon the pun. And Sony has done things right so far. Obviously, they made a ton of movie with Venom,
Wait,
despite
wait,
how a
wait.
lot of
Would you say that we're in a web of confusion?
oh my gosh, the master of puns did it again. The pun master. But you're right. It's just kind of weird how they're going to lay this out, because the Spider Verse is only going to be extended so far before there's going to be some cracks showing and some real just fatigue when it comes to seeing all the different characters within the Spider Verse, especially if a lot of them get put in their own movies or their own type of situation where they have to star themselves. We were skeptical. We were skeptical on Venom, and look how that performed. So you know what, I will say egg on my face for that. You know what? And I'm more happy for Sony if that's the case. I didn't particularly enjoy the movie. I know you did. So look, you know what? They're doing the things that are right and correct now with a good Spider-Man Homecoming, Venom, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Let's hope that continues with Spider-Man Far From Home. Even though I'm kind of upset already that they went ahead and just took kind of the fun out of watching Avengers Endgame. It just seems like a little bit by little bit, there's just like pieces taken out of the fun and suspension of disbelief out of it watching Avengers Endgame. I hope to enjoy it still. I hope to enjoy it very much, but it's just like there's just little pieces like here and there that come off with each trailer that I see that just kind of just makes it not as enjoyable as I think of an experience that I probably could have going in. But I still hopefully will enjoy it nonetheless come April. Spider-Man Far From Home obviously debuted this week, but also this week John Wick 3. That one came out. That one's going to be also coming up in the month of May. John Wick 3, something at the end. Well, I don't know if this is going to be the end of the trilogy, but tell you what, this is a movie series that no one expected to happen, but I'm so glad it did, because the first two have been so good. Did you get a chance to see John Wick 3? And what are your thoughts on John Wick coming back one more time, at least for another go round, even though he's been excommunicated and is on the run?
Okay, I'm gonna be forward with you for a minute. Did not see any John Wick movies yet. They're on my queue, but I have not gotten to them. Uh, Having said that, the trailer for the third one looks pretty darn good. It has a lot of interesting set pieces. I love the thought of Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves coming back together in the same film.
Well, they
And
did in number two.
oh, did they? Okay. Well, that's cool. I like that dynamic because they worked well together in The Matrix. And this looks like it has a lot more choreography than the other ones have, just by the trailers I've seen. Not, I haven't seen the actual movies. Remember that, but I was just seeing the trailers and watching he's jumping over those crates or whatever, and then the two dogs jump at the same time. It's really cool. My only thing is I can't watch movies where dogs die. Like I can't. It depresses me for weeks. So hopefully nothing happens to them because that really bummed me out.
And then be careful when you're watching John Wick number one.
No, I know what the whole story revolves around, and if it's like, I guess if that's the catalyst for the movie, I'll try to bear it. But I remember watching I Am Legend, and I just the part where the dog died, I walked out of that movie theater so mad because I just couldn't do it.
And that gets rerun all the time on cable television.
Oh, I
So
know,
you
right?
can't avoid it. You can't avoid it.
Yeah, and well, plus it wasn't a good movie, so it's easy not to watch that one. But yeah, yeah, no, it looks good, dude. I do want to see it. I'm gonna probably in the next couple weeks I'll sit down and watch the other two, but I think that one has gotten. I look at John Wick the same way I look at Clerks, right? Clerks started out as this nothing film, and over the years, it's built up this massive cult following. And John Wick has kind of done that same thing, and it looks like it's really just a popcorn flick, right? You can sit there, don't really have to think about it. You're just watching the action, and it's like a Mission Impossible film. We were discussing this before we went on, but what are your thoughts? How are you feeling about it? Because I know that you're a fan.
I am a fan, and it is the series, it is the trilogy that wasn't supposed to be a trilogy. I mean, it was just supposed to be John Wick, this simple little movie about a hitman, his life gone wrong, and tales of revenge, and boom, done, out the door. Low budget flick, that's fine. Sure enough, makes a tidy profit at the movie theaters, becomes a cult hit when it goes to home video. Number two comes out, it's whoever, just depending on who you talk to, better than the first. It also makes a nice tidy profit. So you have there the basis of a really, uh, uh, you know, just a really, really good trilogy that's hopefully will be set up with John Wick 3 Parabellum. I'm excited for it. I just, like I said, the expectations are not super high for this film. I just want it to be a good, fun flick with a lot of action. And you know what? The John Wick movies so far have delivered and have delivered in spades. I expect nothing less from John Wick 3 Parabellum. I like when they go ahead and investigate further the dark tone and the underworld that is the world of the hitman, the hotel, the Continental, the whole nine yards. That part is very intriguing. That's just like something little added in there to all the action that makes it even more palatable to watch and it makes it more enjoyable overall as an experience. So I'm looking forward to John Wick 3 Parabellum. And I'm going to tell you, my friend, before May, before John Wick 3 comes out, definitely number one and number two should be watched before then. And it really helps you get where you're at when it comes to John Wick 3 because they're both really solid movies. And I think you'll have a good time in watching them both. And I think John Wick 3 Parabellum, if they don't, you've got a formula. Don't mess with it. Don't break it. There you go. Just stick to it. If they stick to it, even if it's not as good as the other two, should still be a fun flick with Keanu Reeves, running and gunning for his life and whatever his situation. Will it be the final John Wick? That I'm not 100% sure of. Hopefully, we'll find out in the coming weeks. But if that's the case, either which way, it's still going to be a great movie in John Wick 3 Parabellum.
Yes, yeah. So it's I have a lot of friends who are super excited about it. So it's definitely something I do want. I'm hoping to actually catch this one in the theater. So I do want to watch the first two before that one comes out. Knowing that though, how do you think that's going to stack up against some of the other less big films coming out this year?
Well, and that's the thing. It comes out smack dab in the middle of May. And when we did our movie preview, we announced what was coming before it, what a couple weeks before Avengers Endgame. And then there's other movies that are coming out after it. There's a live action movie, Dumbo, I believe, is coming out after, or not Dumbo. What's the next one in line? Not The Lion King. Oh, Aladdin.
A lot, yeah.
Aladdin's coming. Yeah, Aladdin's coming at the end of the month. But the thing is with that one, it doesn't need to be number one. It just needs to make a tidy little profit. In fact, I don't think it has reached number one at the box office. And if it has, it's been only for a week or two, either of the two movies, because they just make that tidy little profit. They do about 150, 170 million dollars worldwide off of a 20 or 30 million dollar budget. And that's all you need to do to get the job done. Then people watch it a lot at home video, and that's the type of movie that people will watch a lot in October, in November, and December when the Blu-ray's already out and it's on sale on Black Friday. A lot of people will go ahead and get that Blu-ray or watch it on Redbox and what have you, and check that out. And that's where really it picks up a lot of steam and a lot of energy. And like I said, all it needs to do is just be a decent movie, and it will make a nice chunk of change. Not the huge numbers that the other movies will, but it will just make a nice, tidy little profit. And by June, hopefully, you will see the nice return starting to take shape when it comes to John Wick 3 Parabellum. So you got the choice, my friend. Do you want to talk a little bit of video games, or do you want to talk about a little bit about another surprise movie that came out this week?
Let's keep the movie train going. What are you talking about? A little old movie that we're all pretty familiar with. Is that what we're hinting at?
Yep, it looks like somebody called the Ghostbusters because this week it was
I
announced
gotta
that
be honest
they're,
with you, I was stumbling on my words because I was looking for the perfect pun, did not find it.
but it looks like I did because somebody called for Ghostbusters. Sony, here we go again, looks like at this point in time was secretly filming with the son of the original director, Ivan Reitman. Jason Reitman is looked like he was filming an upcoming movie in the Ghostbusters, whether it's a reboot or what's going on. It looks like it's not going to associate itself with the movie that came out recently with Melissa McCarthy and all that, because that movie unfortunately was not a very good one and obviously didn't perform well at the box office and whatnot. But they're totally brushing that aside and going ahead and introducing a new Ghostbusters to the world. And yeah, you know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, I want to ask you this. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but I have a feeling if it comes out this year, is it too soon to have a new Ghostbusters movie come out? I mean, so soon. I mean, is there still kind of a bad taste in people's mouths with what happened with the previous Ghostbusters?
No, because Ghostbusters 1 and 2, especially something featuring the original cast,
Well, not two was really bad.
but it was more of that cast, right? That's why people like those movies. They like them for the actors. 2 is bad. I remember that one joke about Sir, the Titanic's coming in. The guy goes, "Well, better late than never." Like that's the only thing in that movie that sticks out to me. But no, people love the original cast, so I think that they will be willing to forgive the hot pile of garbage that is the Ghostbusters reboot from a couple years ago if they were to bring back the original cast and give them the sequel that they deserve, the sequel the fans have been clamoring for the past 20 years. Give that to them and all will be forgiven. But I don't know if you've been reading the alleged synopsis points that came out. That does not sound interesting to me. It sounds like they need to be what they are. They need to be Ghostbusters. They need to embrace that mythology. But it sounds like they're trying to create another Stranger Things.
No, tell me a little bit about what's going on with that.
Well, they released the thing saying that the boy, it's about this kid who's into conspiracy theories and this girl who's like a strong-willed girl. Of course, they're and I'm assuming that they stumble upon one of the original Ghostbusters and they find the car in the garage and they remember all that and they get pulled into a world of ghosts and stuff. It's probably going to be like a mixture of Goosebumps and Stranger Things.
Yeah, you know what? There, as you've said before, there are no original ideas, just offshoots of what somebody else has done in the past. But that's what I want to ask you again. So you're okay with Ghostbusters coming this soon, and because I don't think so. I think if it comes out this soon, I think there's going to be still a bad taste in viewers' mouth, even if it does have the original Ghostbusters involved. Because remember, the original Ghostbusters were involved in the previous Ghostbusters reboot.
No, but they weren't playing themselves. You have a lot of kids, my age and people like, you and Rob and all of our friends who have some kind of experience with the original Ghostbusters movie. And we are, you know, I'm a forgiving person. Like if they were to give me something that continued that storyline, it's the same reason I like the Fantastic Beast movie, despite the fact the last one was horrible. It's just an excuse to go back to that world of my childhood. I would love the idea of seeing Slimer again, seeing Dan Aykroyd back on the screen, seeing Bill Murray. It's nostalgia, and like Sony is doing a good thing right now by cashing in on that nostalgia. Are they going to force it out like so many other movies they do and so many other franchises they ruin? That's the big question here.
Well, I'll tell you what. For me, Ghostbusters 1 was okay, enjoyable enough. Ghostbusters 2 was really bad. Ghostbusters the reboot was even worse. But of all of this, Ghostbusters the cartoon is really one of the best cartoon series I have ever seen. The detail in the original one that came out, just quality nonstop there. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see it, but to me, if they base it off of some of the work there in that series, I think they're doing themselves a lot of good favors.
Are we talking the old Ghostbusters cartoon or the
Yeah,
old new Ghostbusters cartoon?
the old Ghostbusters cartoons. Yes.
Do you remember there was one that when Men in Black was on Warner Brothers or WB in the morning, they had a Ghostbusters cartoon on there too. It's like the new adventures of Ghostbusters.
No, 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 no. These are the older ones. These are the ones with Arsenio Hall was playing the Ernie Hudson
Okay.
character.
Yeah, those are on Amazon Prime, viewers or listeners. You can go check those out now. But
Those are really good.
they
Those were
were
really,
they
really
were
good.
good. They were good. They still hold up pretty well today. I think I watched it maybe 4 or 5 months ago, but yeah, they hold up pretty well. And there's a lot of mythology out there. There's comic books, there's video games, there's action figures. Like there's a whole world that's been built. It just needs to be molded in the right way for a modern audience. And Sony's never really done that well. Let's not talk about Annie. But they just need somebody to get it where it needs to go. And I think that it can once again be a successful property.
Well, here's hoping Jason Reitman can follow in his father's footsteps, at least on the first original Ghostbusters, and do something that's worthwhile to reinvigorate people's idea of what the Ghostbusters should be all about. But no lousy remixes as far as the original Ghostbusters theme, like they did for the reboot. That was just as awful as the movie itself. Who
I
did that?
I I
Who
agree.
who did that? They the group who did Uma Thurman.
Oh, Fallout Boy.
Yeah, Fallout Boy. Yeah,
Okay, Fallout Boy. Even Fallout Boy's fans don't like Fallout Boy anymore. So that just goes to they have sold out to the ultimate level. I remember, they started out with that "Sugar We're Going Down" was like their last emo hit, and then they kind of sold themselves out. So yeah, I know what you mean, man.
Fall Out Boy has a lot of great songs, but the remix of the
Yeah,
Ghostbusters theme is not one of them.
not one of them. Yeah, I agree.
Last but not least, on our you know on our trailer hunt is the latest gameplay for Mortal Kombat 11 coming out this year. Did you see any of the gameplay, or did you see the original trailer that came out recently? And just what are your thoughts on Mortal Kombat 11 actually, hitting the consoles, hitting the gamers? Is it too soon for another Mortal Kombat, or are you like me and anytime you get to see those awesome fatalities, it's just like, you know what, cool, cool, cool. Just reminds me of the old days when you're playing at the arcades.
I'm not
Although
really.
hold on, I
Huh.
shouldn't say those cool fatalities. That would make that was not politically correct. But the very interesting, animations and cutscenes when it comes to the fatalities. How
I
about that?
mean, Gerald, you're sick. You're a sick man. Just promoting death like that. Jeez. No, it looks cool. How many Mortal Kombat games have I played? I played the ones on Sega. I haven't been much of a fighter game person on modern consoles, though. I don't have the coordination for it anymore. But this game looks cool, man. My complaint, I think we talked about this. My complaint with the trailer was that the music sucked. It just was not the right thing for how cool that trailer was. Uh, but with the updated graphics, and Mortal Kombat is one of those properties that can really stand the test of time. It's there's not a lot of thick mythology in it that needs to be, you know, dive, whatever the word is,
Delved into.
delved into. You can just kind of turn it on, play it, rip a few skulls out, and that's it, man. You're like, oh, cool. So it's not it. Will it beat Street Fighter though? That's the question because people love Street Fighter and the legacy that's left behind. It's an esports. Uh,
Tekken 7 was really well thought of too.
Tekken 7, like Mortal Kombat, that's one playing field that Mortal Kombat has yet to tread on. So that's the big question here. And it's got a lot of goodwill and people seem to be excited for it. So I hope to see it in the esports arena. But again, it might be too violent for that kind of thing.
Just if you get a chance to see what Baraka does for his fatality, my gosh, it brings score to a whole new level. My goodness, indeed. Just reminds me of the other day when I went to CS, talked to the great folks at Arcade One Up. They have the Mortal Kombat 2 machine right there, playing that plays the various Mortal Kombats and brings back memories of the old days of lore when it comes to going to the arcades and ripping off some babalities, fatalities, and the whole nine yards. And now it comes back full circle with Mortal Kombat 11 once again coming out very soon this year to gamers. Coming up next, we've got, speaking of gaming, we've got our good friends at Enix. We go ahead and interview them at CES 2019. We talk about all the great things coming up for their retro library of great accessories for video gamers out there. That's coming up right after the break. And then to close out the show, Josh and I are going to be talking about the never ending saga between the breakup with Activision and Bungie and why it's not a good time to be Randy Pitchford right now. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is the PCC Multiverse. Before we head into talking about our last couple subjects of the day, want to give everybody an update on some community events, on a community event coming up with our good friends Go Brothers Gaming and Mario Party Wars. They're combining together for a big super event, the Retro Games Day at the HyperX Esports Arena here in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's at the Luxor, right on the fabulous Las Vegas Strip. It's coming January 20th. Check it out. It's coming Sunday, January 20th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Whole bunch of people are heading out there. If you're in the Las Vegas area or are flying in for the weekend, check it out. It's at the Luxor Hotel in their beautiful HyperX Esports Arena right there on the Las Vegas Strip. If you have any community events of pop culture that you want us to share to our worldwide audience, let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. So, my friend, before we head on out, I know there was a couple subjects that you wanted to talk about that we had mentioned real briefly on the Monday episode that we would mention. Let's start off with the not so humorous news that's coming that went down the pike in regards to the continuing saga between Bungie and Activision. Your thoughts on what's going on there and how it's still changing beyond just Bungie leaving and taking the Destiny license with it.
Well, it sounds like there's more going on behind the scenes. Like I kind of looked into this a little bit, and they're being Activision's being investigated. So I'm wondering if Bungie found something and or they weren't satisfied with the business practices of Activision. But a lot of people are looking. No, there's a company looking into this, but a lot of people are concerned, I guess, because now they're wondering if this is affecting whatever's going on. Is it going to
Investors are
affect
looking into it.
investors are, but they're wondering, is this going to affect the release of Blizzard games? Because I guess Blizzard has a huge following still. People still play computer games. Do you know that? Anyways, yeah, it's very interesting because they're a huge company, and can you imagine like that could very well kickstart a movement because if Activision, you can't trust Activision, who else out there might be doing things that they're not supposed to? So it could very well like be a huge scandal in the gaming industry. I just want to ask your thoughts on it though. How do you feel about it? Because you're more into the number side of things than I am.
It is of great concern, especially for the company Activision going forward. Yes, yes, they had a pretty good fourth quarter with Call of Duty Black Ops 4 actually doing pretty good over the course of the winter season. But going forward, you have issues obviously with Bungie splitting up and taking Destiny with it. Even though that was not the AAA franchise, I think that both Bungie and Activision thought it would be. It still was something that was a mover and a shaker. It did sell units, and there's rumors that the success of Blizzard may not be what it once was, because obviously World of Warcraft and Overwatch and other games of the Blizzard ilk, Hearthstone and whatnot, may not be turning as much of a profit as they did in the past. And is there anything new coming around the corner from Blizzard? That we're not sure of. So things are not looking all that great as it once did with that love fest that was going on previously at Activision Blizzard. And at this point in time, there could be a lot of issues financially for Activision going down the road, because they've had that they've had all those studios under their watch. They've had all to pay out all that money to all those individuals for games at Activision that, besides Call of Duty, that may have not done as well. And like I said, Blizzard may not have the great returns it once did in the age of Fallout, PUBG, and so many other games that are doing very well at this point in time. So it's very concerning to me that there could be issues of fraud and securities fraud, because that would be some serious fines, jail time. That could lead to some serious problems for Activision as a company in the not too distant future if the Security Exchange Commission, they find something wrong, if an investigation by an outside or third party source like that's being done now, that's been requested by investors, finds something wrong. This could be a serious issue for Activision as a company. They may be forced to pay, like I said, heavy fines, or maybe even a possible breakup in the future with Blizzard and Activision, which could be detrimental to not only one, but both those companies.
Right, but I mean, I look at it this way though, from the average gamer's perspective, right? Because you're looking into the number side and the loss side, and then I'm looking at it from an outside perspective of someone who just loves video games. And in this era where we can't trust anything, we can't trust anyone. You go on the internet, you don't know who's lying to you. You can't watch the news, can't trust politics, can't trust anything. What happens when the very foundation on which we have built our our hobbies and the things we enjoy shatters, right? And we can't trust anybody anymore. And that kind of feeds into the Randy Pitchford thing a little bit, but it's very interesting because it could just cause the whole thing to fall apart. And it's crazy because even the thing with Quantic Dream, like that was a huge deal, right? And that's another one of those situations where you look at that and you're like, well, what else is going on out there? And we're seeing more and more things, with the Telltale, and then we have Rockstar, people complaining from Rockstar about burnout and just a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And I'd be curious to know, like, if that's going to start affecting uh, the money people spend on video games.
I think it will at some point. Plus, also, you got to remember GameStop having their financial troubles, losing a lot of money in the last year alone, and look to be either by one or two different entities being bought out in February, which could lead to a lot of closures of some GameStop brick and mortar stores, which makes the video game industry look like, at least on the surface, that it's not as quite as virile as we once thought it was. What are your thoughts out there on what's going on with Bungie and Activision? Plus, let us know what you thought of the trailers that came out this week with Spider Man Far From Home, John Wick 3 Parabellum, the new Ghostbusters. Are you cool with the new Ghostbusters on the way? And also your thoughts on Mortal Kombat 11. We'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this, plus what we talked about with Glass earlier. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, my friend, before we head on out, we've got to talk about it because you mentioned it on the last show, and I think it's once I looked into it, it looks really funny, man. But please elaborate a little bit more about Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford and what is going on with what he's doing, what his life has been like the past few years, and the poor decisions he's continually making.
Well, it's I don't wanna say it's funny, it's sad, but it's funny. And if they're not actually working on Borderlands 3 and they haven't written the script is writing itself right now. So first of all, I'll cover the most recent thing. He had someone had found a USB stick full of porn that was, not of the legal nature that he had left at medieval times. My
I think
first
it was like in 2014 from what I'm reading.
2014, yeah, and he was stupid enough to admit that it was his and he wanted it back. First of all, who takes a USB stick full of porn into medieval times? That's the big question on my mind here.
There's a lot of jokes there, but unfortunately, I'm not going to delve into it because, again, we are not an NSFW show.
I know it's just
Save it for
I know
Topicocalypse.
where you're going with this, yeah. But and there's also the fact that him and his wife were accused of exploiting minors or something, and then there's the whole lawsuit where his ex-partner is trying to sue him and get money, and
A
it's
former Gearbox lawyer.
former Gearbox lawyer. And here's the big thing about this is the fact that an innocent man would not have to get on Twitter every week to say that he's innocent. So I think that he's guilty of something. I don't know what it is, but he has been defending himself so much, and it's not even over. Uh, it's not even at times when he's being accused or when that's circling the media a lot. He's just getting on there and trying to over and over proclaim his innocence. So I'm wondering if there really are some skeletons in his closet. But that brings me to my next point. Brian Kane texts me the day that the medieval time story dropped, and he goes, "I hope that this doesn't affect Borderlands 3." And that's funny because all Randy Pitchford has always been very vocal about how we need more women in the workplace. He's been a very big proponent of the hashtag Me Too movement and equality and diversity and all that. And here he is doing these allegedly doing these questionable things. How do you feel about this? Because I know that we tend to disagree on social issues, but I think that we might actually agree on this one and it not being good.
You also didn't mention that he's being accused of taking a $12 million secret bonus and padding that into his wallet as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So what is he doing with the money? He should be investing in Borderlands 3 and not being whatever it is he's doing. So I feel like Gearbox is on the verge of falling apart and they need to get rid of him quick because this bad publicity is really to me personally, it's making me lose faith that we're ever going to see Borderlands or really anything good come out of Gearbox ever again.
And actually, in some small way, that could actually hurt sales overall for a Borderlands 3 if and when it should come out. So I know people are saying, well, it's just a CEO. Nobody pays attention to the CEO when they go ahead and buy Borderlands 3. Well, you know what? There's a couple people, there's maybe about there's people out there that just might affect them. You know, it sometimes it just takes a little thing to go ahead and sway them in another direction, and this might be the thing that does it. You're right. If Gearbox doesn't take action and the other major shareholders or other board members don't take action to get him out of there, really that's not setting a good precedent for the industry as a whole and also Gearbox for down the road because like you said, they're at a precarious time. If if Borderlands 3 does not become a hit, there's some serious trouble there in my opinion at Gearbox.
Right, hold on. Sorry, I'm looking at because yeah, if you look at They do Fortnite? I thought that was Epic made Fortnite.
Epic makes Fortnite.
Okay. Yeah, so Gearbox, the last game they tried to make outside of the Borderlands, world was Battleborn, and that did not do well. So and it's weird because Borderlands is also a very socially conscious game. They make satire, but it has a lot of very social themes in it. And if that's the game that people want, give us the game that we want. And they keep teasing it for it's been what, 6 years since Borderlands the pre-sequel came out. Give the gamers what they want and get rid of Randy Pitchford. Like they know the steps that they can take to turn their sinking boat around, but they're just not doing it. And that kind of I don't understand. I want to understand, but I don't.
Just don't have me go with Randy Pitchford to medieval times anytime soon.
Again, the jokes are all there, but I won't make them.
What are your thoughts out there on Randy Pitchford and also Gearbox Entertainment? You think it's time to let him go so that Borderlands 3 can actually come to fruition and actually have a safe ride one way or the other into stores and into retailers and into gamers and into consoles with something that they can be proud of and not have anything else tainted along the way with it? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, it's been a great episode. Once again, I want to thank the folks at 161 and also Inix for hanging out with me at CES 2019. Stay tuned as we talk to more great companies in future episodes, both the Monday and Friday episodes. For I've still got quite a few more on the plate to share with people out there from CES. My friend, any last thoughts on the way out?
Yeah, when you after your interview is all up, I want to hear your favorite part of CES. I do want to chat with you about that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll save that for maybe a special or actually one of our later episodes that are come up, like you said, after. And just remind me, man, just after all of the great interviews that I have that we're going to post over the next few weeks. Plus, on our Monday episode, not only are we going to talk about how well Glass is doing over the course of the holiday weekend, but hopefully I will have a review of that. Star Trek Discovery, hopefully I'm going to be able to actually catch that as well. And what's going on with Netflix? They did a major news drop, which is big news because they don't usually share info very much unless they really, really want to. They dropped some major info and some also major comparisons that a lot of people took umbrage with. We're going to be talking about Netflix going forward and its year in 2019. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.